Some of the allies of Musk are saying, well, honestly, he was just really annoying everybody in Trump's orbit. He was annoying Donald Trump. He was annoying Elon Musk. There are people who have argued that he didn't really do that much, that he wasn't as involved in Doge as he was anticipated to be.
Welcome to Undercurrents, our daily news show from Unheard's Washington Bureau. Today's guest is Shelby Talcott. Subscribe here wherever you get your podcasts and over at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show. The U.S. government officially consists of a Department of Government Efficiency. Here in Washington, D.C., the big buildings housing our many federal agencies dot the landscape, and Doge, kind of an anti-agency, is now among them, located in the Eisenhower Executive Office building next to the White House. And it'll apparently have up to 20 employees, but Doge's original co-administrator won't be among them. In fact, Vivek Ramaswamy, one of Donald Trump's most relied upon and most impassioned surrogates back in 2024, isn't in the second Trump administration at all. Ramaswamy went from being discussed for a potential cabinet position to maybe being appointed to replace J.D. Vance in the Senate to now focusing on a very uphill 2026 gubernatorial bid back home in Ohio. Ramaswamy's exile seems to have happened slowly and then all at once. Amid media reports that Ramaswamy was on the outs, here's what Donald Trump said at his pre-inaugural rally on Sunday.
Landed it. Nobody's been able to do that but him. And he's a great guy, and we have him and Vivek and some great people working on a thing called costs. And he's got the credibility to do it, too. We're going to do things that are really amazing.
This was seen as a rebuttal to the chatter in the press about tensions between Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. That evening, the Trump transition team put out a statement that said Vivek Ramaswamy played a critical role in helping us create Doge. He intends to run for elected office soon, which requires him to remain outside of Doge based on the structure that we announced today. We thank him immensely for his contributions over the last 2 months and expect him to play a vital role in making America great again! Ramaswamy himself weighed in on Inauguration Day, during which he partook in all of the festivities here in D.C. He wrote, "It was my honor to help support the creation of Doge. I'm confident that Elon and team will succeed in streamlining government. I'll have more to say very soon about my future plans in Ohio. Most importantly, we're all in to help President Trump make America great again." Now, the world's most powerful man, arguably at least, is in charge of Doge alone. And Musk has indicated that it'll be a very, very big priority for him, even with all of the other big priorities he has on his plate. So what happened to Vivek, and what does that mean for Doge? What actually is Doge now that it's formally part of the government? Shelby Talcott covers the White House for Semafor. She reported immediately this week as Trump's new administration rapidly created Doge through an executive order, and she's here to answer all of our burning questions about Trump and Musk's plans to dramatically reshape the government through cuts aimed at efficiency via Doge. Shelby Talcott, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
We were just joking before we went to air that you're basically the Doge correspondent at this point because you've done so much coverage of what's going on. And I just want to start with something interesting. There's been so much speculation about Vivek Ramaswamy, what actually happened there. You have incredible sources inside Trump world. Could you give us any insight into how he ended up? The cover story is that he's running for Ohio governor. He can't be involved. There was talk, though, of him getting a cabinet position not that long ago, and now he's sort of been exiled to Ohio. Or maybe I'm framing that incorrectly. What are you hearing actually happened?
Well, as of last week, I was hearing that the plan had always been for Vivek to do Doge for like 9 months and then run for Ohio governor. Obviously, he's not been doing Doge for 9 months, so I think that in itself says something that he's now out of Doge. And I think it was a combination of factors. And I hear different things from different sources. And so I will say kind of it all because the truth is probably somewhere amid all of what people are saying. So the Vivek allies are saying, no, this is just because he's running for governor of Ohio and it would have been difficult for him to do Doge and also run for elected office. And then some of the allies of Musk are saying, well, honestly, he was just really annoying everybody in Trump's orbit. He was annoying Donald Trump. He was annoying Elon Musk. There are people who have argued that he didn't really do that much, that he wasn't as involved in Doge as he was anticipated to be. And then there's, of course, his comments about the H-1B visas, where he sort of trashed American culture and defended the H-1B visas. That pissed off a lot of people in Trump's orbit. So I think it's probably a combination of all of those things, and him running for Ohio governor gives them sort of an easy out to sort of push him out and move on.
And, a lot of people might be wondering, like, what is the point of all of this palace intrigue? Elon Musk was always, he's the world's most powerful man. He was always going to be more powerful than Vivek Ramaswamy in Doge, let alone in life. But Shelby, I think there's something so important about Doge, and I'm curious if I'm wrong about this. It seems to me that it factors pretty heavily into Trump world's plans for this administration. It's not just sort of like an afterthought. It's something that, again, the most powerful man in the world, arguably, and the two most powerful men in the world between Donald Trump and Elon Musk they care about it. Am I wrong in thinking that? It seems like it's pretty important to them.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of skepticism among some Republicans and a lot of Democrats over how effective Doge is going to be. But everything that Donald Trump wants to get done, or most of what Donald Trump wants to get done, revolves around cutting government spending and sort of reducing the impact of government and waste. And that is what Doge was created to do. And so all of the executive orders that Donald Trump is doing and all of the big initiatives that he's doing could arguably be tied back to Doge's core mission of cutting government spending. When they want to cut 1 trillion, originally it was 2 trillion. They said that would be sort of the aspirational number, and if they can get 1 trillion, that would be really good. So everything Donald Trump is doing and wants to do is going to tie back to that mission.
That's really interesting. And so we are now getting a glimpse at what Doge actually is going to be, because, the Trump administration is here in Washington, D.C. It's the second Trump presidency, and nobody quite knew how Doge was going to work. It looks like, Shelby, they set up Doge really quickly. You reported on this like hours into the second Trump presidency. Doge was a thing through an executive order, took over it looks like they took over another agency and renamed it Doge, and so they were able to kind of claim that existing infrastructure. It's like the USDS, US Digital Service, something like that, some alphabet soup agency. So what is Doge now, and how will it function? Like, what are the nuts and bolts now that we know more?
Yeah, so this is really interesting because we don't know a ton, but what we do know is Donald Trump signed this executive order, and the executive order was kind of notable because it said that it would operate within the U.S. government. And so my question for folks when I was first reporting this out before Donald Trump had officially signed the executive order was, what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to be an official government agency? And people didn't really have an answer for me or didn't want to answer. And I think, the answer is clear. They took over this government agency, which is how they were able to do this without Congress. And they're going to oversee a significant reduction in the size and scope of government. That's their goal. They're also going to try to update federal software systems to private sector standards. So that's a lot of what they're going to be doing. Donald Trump had a lengthy press conference last night while he was signing papers in the Oval Office. And he said that they're going to have a White House team with about 20 staffers. And then each agency also is going to be directed to create their own Doge team. And so within each agency, there presumably is going to be a team of people who are working to update these federal software systems. And I guess potentially, theoretically, figure out how to cut spending from their intra-agency. But what I think is really interesting and we don't have an answer of is this is now a government thing, but Elon Musk, who heads it up, is not a government employee. And so that's kind of notable, even though he has a White House email address and space in the White House. So that's kind of interesting. And I don't quite know how it works.
I was going to say both the structure of Doge and the structure of its leadership now sounds to me like it's wide open for lawsuits. Is that something we've maybe already even seen within the last, the earliest hours of the Trump administration? Because Elon Musk's conflicts of interest are legion. Whether you love him or you hate him, there are some just very obvious business conflicts of interest, and typically you can't go into government. Even Donald Trump himself has divested his own stake in the Trump organization when he's been in office. So what's going on? on? Like, doesn't this seem like it's rife for legal challenges?
It does, and I anticipate there's going to be some, but there already have been, right? As soon as Donald Trump became president, there was a lawsuit filed that the Washington Post reported on by a firm called the National Security Counselors, and they argued that Doge was breaking transparency laws on disclosure, hiring, and other practices, basically arguing that they're not disclosing things, they're not being transparent in their hiring practices, etc. And that was before news had broken about the fact that Doge was going to operate within the U.S. government, and not only within the U.S. government, but how this executive order, as we talked about, was created so that it could kind of bypass Congress. So I do anticipate there's probably going to be further legal action and challenges now that this has been developed.
And my understanding of Doge, maybe this has changed, but the goal was to have Doge sort of be the think tank of government waste and send the recommendations formally over to OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, which will likely be helmed once again by Russell Vought, somebody who was involved in Project 2025, but is sort of an old conservative movement veteran. Tea Party year veteran, close with the sort of grassroots conservative movement. And that was always, again, kind of seen as a formality. Like, Doge is going to be the brain trust, send over the marching orders to OMB. OMB rubber stamps it. Thus, Doge is able to operate in this quasi-governmental capacity. So is that still the plan as far as we know it? What should we expect in that?
I don't think we really have a clear answer. And I was actually just talking to some of my colleagues this morning, kind of trying to sort out exactly what's going on. What I think is notable is, I have this document up here. When Trump first announced Doge, it was set up to dismantle bureaucracy, slash spending and regulations, restructure federal agencies from an outside perspective. And how the executive order defined Doge yesterday was primarily, yes, it talked about reducing this government spending, but it was primarily focused on modernizing federal technology and software, which is a very different thing than, dismantling the bureaucracy, restructuring federal agencies. And so I don't think we have an answer. And the other question that I have that hasn't been answered is each agency that sets up the Doge group, how are they going to work? What is their primary function going to be? Is it going to be just focusing on federal technology and software? Are they going to be going to that core mission of, okay, each agency, we want you to figure out how to cut X amount in spending and then come back to us? I don't think we have all of those answers yet.
And the palace intrigue around Vivek Ramaswamy actually appears to have turned out to have been in part true. There have been rumors swirling about Elon Musk's relationship with Donald Trump, although basically none of that has bubbled into public view. We don't see any public tensions between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And to the extent we do, it's sort of Trump joking about Elon Musk getting too much attention or whatever, as he's done in the past. Are there any tensions, according to what you know, Shelby? And how prominent is Elon Musk in this administration now that the administration is here in D.C. getting to work?
I think he's super prominent. I mean, when I talk to people close to Trump, there's jokes about how, he's kind of like the shadow president. But as in terms of turmoil, the only turmoil I really see is there are some core Trump allies who are not huge fans of Elon Musk. I'm thinking of, Steve Bannon, for example, has made it no secret that he has problems with Elon Musk. But Donald Trump himself seems to like Elon Musk. They're traveling together a lot. He's seen at Mar-a-Lago. He makes those jokes, but he's still in Trump's orbit. And everybody knows that if Donald Trump seriously didn't like someone, they would not be remaining in his orbit. And I think part of the thing that helps Elon Musk is, of course, he has a lot of money. Donald Trump likes people with money. But also he helped him get elected. And I think Donald Trump finds Elon Musk to be sort of a fascinating figure. And I think what helps Elon Musk post-inauguration is that it's going to be more difficult for Elon Musk to, go into the Oval Office day in and day out. There's more of a barrier. There's more structure than there was at Mar-a-Lago. And I think that helps prevent Elon Musk from sort of overstaying his welcome when it comes to Trump.
Bacha Ungar Sargon reported in Newsweek that sources said it was notable Trump hadn't told Bannon to quiet down, calling Musk evil. I mean, he flat out called the guy evil, said he was waging a war on him until he became a populist and not a techno-libertarian, I think were Bannon's words. Do you have any insights into who might come out on top in this power struggle, if it continues to be a power struggle? Maybe they paper over it. It's obvious, I'm sure it's obvious to Steve Bannon, that Elon Musk's power is so vast financially and beyond that, just in terms of all the different companies that he owns and how powerful those companies are, that Trump is probably always going to side with Musk over him. But Trump also knows that Bannon is to some extent the voice of his voters, his hardcore base, the people who go to rallies. So how is that balancing right now in Trump world?
I've heard those theories from Trump world also, that sort of the war room is the place where theories go to start, and then Donald Trump sits back and sees how they're taken and then kind of works from there. I don't know if that's true. There's probably a shred of truth to it. But I don't know if Donald Trump, called Steve Bannon up and told him, hey, try this theory out. I think it's probably more likely that Steve Bannon has very strong opinions and it has historically not been afraid to voice them. But I don't know who comes out on top right now. I think the point that people make that Elon Musk is very powerful, helped Donald Trump get elected, and has a ton of money, weighs strongly in this argument. And while Steve Bannon has been very vocal in his criticisms of Elon Musk, again, I think it helps the Musk-Trump relationship that Donald Trump is now seated in the Oval Office, because I think Donald Trump is going to be busy with a lot more things running the country. And so that means most likely that Elon Musk is not going to be in the Oval Office every single day like he was at Mar-a-Lago. And I think that helps their relationship.
Shelby, this is absolutely fascinating. My last question for you is what priorities? I mean, we have this general conversation you were mentioning about cutting waste and bloat, and you're making the government more efficient. Are there any agencies that you think will immediately be on the Doge chopping block? Are you hearing obvious telegraphing about particular programs? What is there something we should be looking for right now?
Well, I think there's been a lot of concern among conservatives and people in Trump's orbit about the Department of Education. There's been a lot of talk about dismantling that pretty much entirely. There's been a lot of talk about completely revamping and restructuring the FBI. And, I think that at its core, Donald Trump has issues with a lot of these key agencies. And so I wouldn't say any are safe from massive change. Their goal, and they made that clear during the campaign, was if we win, we are going to drastically reshape how the US government operates. And that is likely to hit multiple agencies, not just one or two in particular.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're in for an interesting couple of weeks, 100 days, and probably a few years. Shelby Talcott, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
One interesting part of all of this, Batya Ungar-Sargon wrote recently at Compact Magazine that Trump must defeat Doge. I think that was the headline of her piece. And amid the political swirl of what's actually going on between high-ranking members of the administration, there's also this big question about ideologically what is Doge. We know Doge is now a government agency. It's now at the EEOB. It is now going to have about 20 employees and be run by Elon Musk. Those are sort of the basics. We know that it's going to forward suggestions to the Office of Management and Budget, likely to be helmed by Russell Vought. But what we don't know is how this ideological clash of sort of populist MAGA Doge and populist libertarian Doge, which Elon Musk sometimes represents in one single person, is going to pan out. It was always a little bit interesting which side of that divide Vivek Ramaswamy fell on. And the same thing is true of Elon Musk. This is just really hard to pin down in their mosaic of beliefs, whether they're more libertarian or more sort of populist MAGA. I think libertarianism, by the way, this gets lost in all of the discussion about populism being, pro-industrial policy and pro-entitlement, which is what entitlements, which is a lot of libertarians will call it. I mean, libertarianism is often populism. Ron Paul was a populist. Rand Paul is a populist. It's a different kind of populism, but it's populism nonetheless. And there is some overlap here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. probably represents the best embodiment. he probably is the best embodiment of where those conflicts are. We've talked about this on the show before as well. It's just sort of like, does the government need to be cut? Or so is the government too powerful, or has the government's power been chipped away at by crony capitalists? And it's obvious that the answer is both. But if Doge is just going to cut for the sake of efficiency, who's there also? Like, where are the priorities when it comes to places that industry has had a lot of, time and power chipping away at, legitimate sources of government oversight? And Elon Musk being a guy who has all of his own business interests that he's bringing to the table, I think raises some interesting questions about what happens in that space. So we'll see. That's a storyline that we'll definitely be following closely here. So make sure to subscribe on the channel here on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you download your podcasts. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, make sure to subscribe. And of course, over at undercurrents.tv, if you want the whole premium experience of the show, we'll be back soon with more.